together a great show today. So we get to talk about all of the craftsmanship that goes into cabinet making, vanities, kitchen cabinets. And we have you here because you've been making cabinets since you were 17 years old. So they're working on them right now. I'm not sure if we're doing it right. Let's
this would be great.
What we
This
got
is right
here.
in my wheelhouse. Tony. What?
Oh,
Hey,
holy cow.
safety first.
Safe. Oh yeah.
When you're sanding, you got to move this sander back and forth. Can't stay in the spot. And to get rid of the cough, wear this.
Oh, that's cool. It's got like a ventilator and.
Oh, I need this. Thank
He's
you.
about to cut his finger off here. Let's
come
see
on
what,
now.
let's see what he's doing.
No, Izzy. No, this is not the right
Come
thing to
on.
do.
That's the fun
So,
one.
Izzy, there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into cabinet making. We have a tool called a coping saw. You don't always need the big saw. What you do, we're working within fractions of an inch here, so you have to use a coping saw to
All right.
get those tight cuts.
I think I can handle
Try
it.
it out.
Let me work on that.
Tony.
Wait.
I'm not sure you know what you're doing there.
Somebody said about a biscuit and gravy or biscuit.
Right. Well, we put a biscuit in here, and it makes a nice tight joint for strength.
Oh, that's like a miter joint or another joint. This is a biscuit
Exactly,
joint. I love it. Well,
yeah.
you just taught me something new.
There you go.
Lonnie, what are you working on over there?
I'm trying to put this door together. It's
Hold on
a
there.
lot of puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
I think we need a little glue. I mean, a little oil first.
No, these are made
You
of
do need glue.
Yeah.
Oh,
wood
this,
glue.
This reminds me of first grade. Yeah, okay.
Don't
Maybe
need it.
both.
These are made of very tight tolerances. The stiles, the rails, the center profile.
Yeah, that's why we need oil.
Right. Lonnie.
Whatever.
All right, ladies, what are you guys working on today?
Well, I'm working on the hardware. I'm going to remove this and do something a little bigger and more stylish.
Update it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Taylor, what are you working on over
There's
there?
hinges. There's so many different styles and types. There's hidden hinges. It's crazy how many there are.
All right, let's get to it then. Matt, I got your carcass ready.
Yeah, great.
Wait, carcass.
Carcass. Why is it the box?
Yeah, the body of the cabinet.
Weird name.
You guys got the door ready?
Okay, enough goofing around. We had thought this is really fun. I thought it was going to be easy to make it a cabinet. It's not.
It is
We better
not.
get the stove started.
All right.
Okay, let's start.
Welcome to Between the Studs. We are Granite Ridge Builders, custom builders serving northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and also parts of southern Michigan. We have been building custom homes for almost 2 decades, and we're really passionate about what we do. So join us today as we explore the processes, the trends, and also tips that characterize today's new home. Thanks for watching.
Well, welcome back to the show. We have an exciting show for you today. We are talking all about cabinets. Everything that has to do with cabinets, from the anatomy to cabinets, definitions, how it's constructed. We're also going to get into design trends, kitchen designs, and my favorite, the top celebrity kitchens.
Oh, yeah.
Now, before we do that, we got to get into the history of it. First of all, cabinets really were not used very often until about the 1900s. In fact, before that, they were called cup boards, meaning just cups on a board. But cabinets started back in the, probably 1890s. However, there wasn't cabinets. They were just a piece of woodwork or a furniture. Now, what they did in about 1900, they came up with something called the Hoosier cabinet. Does anybody know what that is? Let's describe it.
Well, the reason it was called a Hoosier cabinet is because it was actually built, for the most part, in the state of Indiana, where we are known as Hoosiers. In Newcastle, for example, where my brother-in-law used to live, in Boone County, in Napanee, where I used to live, and it was an incredible, practical piece of furniture that kind of took the place of the sink and where you put all your stuff.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was very interesting is it became so popular that there was 20 million households in the United States. 2 to 3 million had a Hoosier cabinet.
Right.
And it was only 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and 6 feet high, but it had a lot of components, moving parts.
Right, you could put your flour in this thing because it had a flour bin. It was place for sugar, place for the plates. Incredible, and it was very popular until the Great Depression, which then sales began to fall off a little
But
bit.
it had a lot of moving parts. You could bake on it, you could pull a board out, and everything was right there in one spot. So we really did not have cabinets until about the probably 30s and 40s.
Then the sink come in, right?
Yeah,
right,
the dry
so it came
sink.
in, dry sink.
As we continue on, we see in the 1950s, after the war, everyone's excited. Optimism is filling the air, so we see lots of bold colors returning. We see checkered flooring, floral wallpaper, all kinds of things like that. And a lot of this manufacturing switched towards gadgets. And so the more gadgets, the more pantry space we need. So storage became important again.
And when the 60s came around, we're talking bold colors. We're talking bright, we're talking exciting, and this is going on the countertops themselves. We're talking about the walls getting more that way. And I see everybody cringing, but we were just at the International Builder Showcase, and guess what they were showing? They were showing bold, they were showing exciting, they were showing all these great, big, bright colors. They're coming back not only in the cabinets, but also in the appliances.
Well, the new word is vintage.
Vintage,
So
exactly.
think about that. Well, they did metal, and you could paint those. That was kind of fascinating.
Well, then came the 70s, and in the 70s, lifestyles were changing, and women were putting kitchens on the back burner. They weren't cooking as much because pizza delivery was big. Now, the kitchens, though, the cabinets were typically dark, but that's when they introduced the avocado appliances, yellow appliances. I think you all want to forget
Yep.
those. And then linoleum flooring was really hot.
Well, I remember birch stain. Do you remember all the houses that we had that were birch
Everything was
stain
birch.
cabinets, birch stain walls? That color was very popular.
And that took off into the 80s too, Tony. 80s said hello to white and goodbye to all of those bright colors. Everything became more streamlined and white. They got rid of that linoleum flooring that Elizabeth was talking about, and they put in white tile. Everything was that clean look in the 80s.
Well, I think, Kayla, that's back, isn't it?
Very much back right now.
And then in the 90s, really the style took a back seat and the function and the space of the kitchen were more important. So you saw a lot of golden oak cabinets with white tiles on the floor, with white appliances and very little accent pieces.
So in the 2000s, the kitchen became the real focal point. The formal dining room started to go away. You started to see prep stations, kitchen islands, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances.
Which brings us to today's trends. And really, in today's designs, anything goes. You can have stained cabinets, you can have white cabinets, white countertops, black countertops, but you're really gonna focus on the gourmet kitchen, and we're gonna get into more of that today.
Okay, we had fun trying to build a cabinet. We figured out, Matt, it is a lot more work than any of us thought. I think you're going to enjoy this. There's a lot of nomenclature that we didn't know. Also, we're going to show you how to build a cabinet. So let's get our parts and
Can I
pieces.
get avocado? We talk about it.
Baby
Avocado.
blue.
Man, but I don't think Well, as we've mentioned, we're talking about cabinets today, and that has to be one of the more exciting parts of my job, is to see a full finished kitchen come together and see the cabinets. But we really need to go back to the beginning and understand how cabinets come together to be able to design that and see those beautiful kitchens at the end. So we have Luke and Matt here to be able to explain a lot more of the terminology, and I have a few things that I know as well, but we're going to put this together so we know what we're looking at when we walk into a kitchen.
Right, and you know, it's actually a pretty complicated area, so why don't we just start with the basics, like Kayla said, and kind of work our way from the floor up and identify some of those features that are there. So let's start with the plinth, probably more commonly known as the toe kick, and that's usually about a 4-inch space that's kind of inset into the cabinet, which allows you to actually stand up against the cabinet and be able to do your task. If that was not there, you'd find, especially those people with like size 13 shoes, would constantly be kicking the bottom of that cabinet.
Now, I like the plinth because we've been putting a lot more lighting and rope lighting underneath for some highlights. So let's jump to the very top, because the cornice is what we're talking about with more lighting. I love to put rope lighting up there. We might have crown molding at the very top, which is very important for an overall finished look. Now, in today's trends, we might not see any cornice because people are going streamlined and more modern. The last one I want to talk about when it comes to lighting is the pelham, and that's going to be pretty much the under cabinet lighting. You might have a frame come down to be able to hide some sort of lighting there for your countertops, which is really important.
All right, Matt, let's jump back down to, again, working our way from the floor up. We got the toe kick, and then what comes after that?
So we talked about it, it's the carcass of the cabinet. It's the heart of the cabinet. And a well-built cabinet will have quality plywood, sides and tops, and then you put probably a maple face frame if you're painting them.
Right, and really, whether it's a base cabinet, which is what gets mounted to the floor, or the wall cabinet, both of them truly are just boxes that we're building. And then we put a lot of accent features on it to make it look maybe like one style versus the other.
Depending on the door that you pick, which is what we'll talk about a little bit too, you can see, we're going to call this maybe a half overlay or some sort of overlay where you're going to see that frame around the door. Now, a really popular trend right now is going to be a full overlay where it's all door and you don't see any of that frame. A lot of cabinet companies are also doing frameless, so you have a little bit more space on the interior of your cabinet. We also have inset, so you're going to see all of this frame and the door's just going to be on the opening that you would see there. So when it comes to the overall end look of your cabinets, the overlay and the style of your door, how it goes together on the carcass is very important.
So now, once we got the box and we've kind of got the face framing on it, obviously we have the doors. Now the doors are comprised of a few parts and pieces too.
Yeah, so your door, every cabinet will have a door. And so each door is comprised of the stile and the rail. The two uprights are the stiles, and the top and the bottom are the rails. And then you always have a center panel. And it's all about the fit and finish. The way these are constructed, it's a really tight construction.
Right. Obviously, cabinets take a lot of abuse, so they need to be built right. And they also, with any kind of wood, they expand and contract, so we have to take that into effect. Now, we got the doors. What about the drawers? The front of these, the drawer faces, as you can see here, that can change the style and the look, as well as the hardware that's put on that as well.
Absolutely. There's all sorts of different styles of that, and the construction of it is going to be really important that we're going to get into next.
All right, Matt, so in the previous segment, we talked a lot about the terminology, and all that's really good, but if we don't have a good built cabinet, which starts with the material, then all that doesn't matter. So let's talk about some of the material and the construction to get to that point where we're installing these cabinets.
Exactly. So the way it originates is, they're out in the forest, they cut the tree down, and then they cut these boards, and they usually cut them over like 1.25 inches thick. They run it into a kiln. Kiln dries it to like 7 to 9%, so there's a lot of shrinkage. So this one's probably 1 1/8 inches wide. Then you have to run it through a planer and get it down to your rough thickness. Then you have to join it to get one edge smooth. Then you run it through the table saw, and then you get your strips for your face frame.
Right.
Once they get your face frame built, clamp it together, then they'll run that through a sander and get it nice and smooth. And then you're ready to start your painting process.
So when we're building the cabinets, we use a lot of dimensional lumber like this, but we also use plywood, and it's usually a lot of 1/2 and 3/4 inch plywood that we're building these cabinets with. So again, very strong material. But obviously, if we have that strong material, none of it matters unless we join it correctly. And there's lots of different ways we can join these cabinets together. Let's talk about a few of them that we might see on some of our cabinets.
So you're going to see a ton of joinery options on our cabinets. You're going to see dado cuts, which is basically cutting a groove so that way another piece of plywood can fit in there. You're going to see dovetail joints, which it's a wedge that's cut into a piece of wood, and another board can slide right in, and it makes a very tight fit on there.
And we usually see that on our drawers.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice, strong, so nobody can pull that off.
And it's decorative too. It's got a very pretty finish to it. You'll see a rabbit joint, which is on like the edge of a cabinet that you'll see a lot.
Kind of looks like this, right? They kind of back cut that so another board can fit in there, and then nail it nice and tight on the back side. Yeah.
Perfect, yes. And then you'll see mortise and tenon. Now this one's a little more tough, but they basically cut a notch out of the port of a board, and then you have a tenon which fits right into that mortise.
Kind of like old barns.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
So, Matt, one of the things that we talked about at the beginning, Tony talked about, was biscuit joints, right? And that's what this little thing is here. This is called a biscuit.
Right, so the way a biscuit is made is there's a machine that cuts a groove on both pieces, and then you put a little bit of glue in there, slide the biscuit in, and it is a very strong joint.
Yeah. And then, Mike, what you have there is called a pocket joinery. So on the back side, they drill these little holes in here, and then they tighten it up with a screw, which then on the front side of that face frame draws everything nice and tight and is extremely strong. We see this is becoming more and more popular.
Yeah. So then this is a dowel and pin. The biscuit, the dowel and pin, once you create that connection, you have to clamp it. With the pocket jigs, you can just screw that together, and you can go right with it.
Right. And all these things have in common is once it's finished, you can't hardly tell how the cabinet's held together, but they're all extremely strong and very well done. And then once we get all of this built, the doors built and everything together, we also have to somehow attach that door so it's operable. So let's spend a minute talking about hinges.
Yeah, so again, there's tons and tons of options that you can see with our hinges. You're going to see hidden hinges, which will be completely enclosed in the cabinet, which you'll never see from the front. There's exposed hinges, which are the ones that you will see from the outside. Right. Something that you don't see as much anymore, but they have decorative hinges. You'll see those old like Gothic style hinges on some of our older cabinets. They're slow close hinges, so if you have kids in the house that like to slam doors, there's no way to slam those doors. They only go so far, and then they slowly close the rest of the way.
Right, so hinges are one of those things that sometimes people overthink, but they can also change how the style feels of that cabinet because they can be hidden or they could be very much an accent.
Yep.
Tony, our business is all about wood. You know, we take trees, we fall those trees, we mill those trees, we bring them into a factory, like a cabinet factory, for example. We put them together like this, and we end up with a beautiful product, just like we see behind us.
Isn't this gorgeous? And there's so many different ways that we can do this. And it's amazing how a different tree used on a cabinet can give it a completely different look. Lonnie, what are some of your favorites when it comes to the different types of wood for the cabinets?
You know, I'm kind of old. I used to like oak, but there's a lot of grain in oak. And so today, we're doing a lot of cabinets made out of hickory, which is kind of an example here. You see here, it's a beautiful stained product, and it's also, Tony, a very hard product. We get into the Janko rating on some of this stuff.
You know, and when we're talking about the different looks with it, with the grain, with the stain, some people like to go towards more of a maple product because it doesn't have nearly as much grain, has a cleaner look, different profile style when it comes to the sleekness of the kitchen.
Right, and right now everything's in. Painted cabinets, stained cabinets, natural cabinets, and oftentimes when we paint, we're going to paint maple because it's that grain, it's a finer grain, and it paints so well, and it's also a very hard wood.
Another part when we're talking about these species that's really important is something that's called a Janko rating.
Right, I mentioned that, right.
It's a hardness of what it is or how soft the cabinets are. And one of the popular softer ones is a naughty older, like what we see over here.
Right, we actually take a steel ball and drop it at a certain distance, and it tells us how hard that wood is. So you have to really look at that when you think about, what am I going to use my kitchen for? Who's going to be in my kitchen? Are those little kids going to be running around? You might want to stay away from some of the softer woods.
Lonnie, you're talking about the grandkids coming over. That could actually distress a lot of cabinets, give it that distressed look, and that's really popular right now.
You're right. Distressed is, and some of these other knotty, which have knots in them, as we talked about,
make it more of a natural
rustic
look to it. It gives it that feel. And the other thing that's going really gangbusters right now when it comes to the wood and the species and the look is glazing of the cabinets.
And that's basically putting one stain or one finish over another, over the top of
Correct. It's giving it more of a thicker look, a heavier look to it. It's giving it some more definition in those styles and the whole look of the cabinet.
And then the other major thing when it comes to kitchen cabinets is, do you want a raised panel or do you want a recessed panel as it relates to your drawers and your doors?
We got some great examples right here. We're going to zoom in a little bit of this, but just talk about the panel itself. Is it coming out or is it sitting back into there?
Got a lot of options out there at Granite Ridge Builders. You can come into our showroom. We got several kitchens where you can see a lot of these profiles.
And several people that can help explain it all to you.
Yes. So Izzy, when we're talking about kitchen cabinets, obviously we got to have a room to set these cabinets in. Yeah. You know, in the old days, like my grandma's house, she had like an 8x8 kitchen, but it didn't stop her from making some of the most beautiful, tasty butterscotch pies in all the world.
And so now you take that same size, that 8x8, and that is the center of the kitchen. So the kitchens are getting so much larger because you've got an 8x8 island sitting in the very middle of it.
I am convinced there are people trying to land their airplane on that island now. It's so big. Yeah, we're talking about 6, 8, 10, 12 angled islands, L-shaped, triangular islands. And just for example, it does take about 2 feet to put a seat up against an island. In this example behind us here, we've got 3 chairs, and this island is about 6.5 feet long.
But more importantly is the size between the island and the cabinets.
You're right, you're right. And our rule is you need 42 inches. You should allow 42 inches between your cabinets along the wall and the island itself to get through. And then also, if there's a refrigerator here, there's no way I'm getting in my refrigerator unless I've got at least 42 inches.
And these are things that not everyone is addressing when they're planning your kitchens. And so it's something that Granite Ridge really specializes in. We also love to talk about the kitchen triangle, trying to make sure that the distance between your refrigerator, range, and sink all make sense. So as you're doing your symphony of cooking, you can go back and forth between those items very easily.
Yeah, so very simply, if my refrigerator's here, I don't want to have my sink over there necessarily because I'd have to walk all the way around my airport landing strip island to get there.
Another big thing we're seeing is the open shelves, the open cabinets again. And people expect to get a little bit of a discount when they go this way, but that is not the truth.
Yeah, the application of those shelves, those open shelves, they got to hold a lot of goods potentially, so they're really secured into the wall, and they're not necessarily less expensive.
And to see all these things well, we're focusing on things like under cabinet lighting, but another big trend is, again, more windows in the kitchen.
In the kitchen,
with our larger pantries, now the kitchen spaces are able to open up for more windows windows, even transom windows, lots and lots of natural light coming into that kitchen.
Another trend is countertops. We may do one countertop application on the island and something different on the other kitchen cabinets. And then also a lot of times we're coordinating different colors. We may have a painted island, stained cabinets everywhere else, or vice versa.
Again, it's a room that for many years was kind of a small box out of the way, and now it is one of the most displayed and well-versed rooms in the home.
Move over Hoosier Cabinets.
When it comes to kitchens, of course your cabinets are very important, but there's a lot of other important components that go into that space.
Absolutely. When we talk about cabinets, what's going to accentuate the cabinets is going to be all the other little things around it, all the trends and features. And one of my favorites has to probably be the backsplash. We get into the conversation a lot about what the backsplash is going to look like. And I would say trends right now when it comes to backsplashes would either be very simple, a subway tile, but we're getting the simple subway tile longer, wider, and different colors than just white, which is great. But then you're also going to see a lot of pattern when it comes to backsplashes. We have Baroque pattern coming back. We have herringbone pattern. So that's going to be a way to really spice up those kitchen cabinets, is to throw a nice pattern on your backsplash.
The next trend is your lighting. Lighting is, of course, very important in every space. So in your kitchen, you're going to want to have a few can lights, of course, so some overall lighting. But then we're seeing a lot of big pendant lights. So something a lot more mass than we used to see, maybe more of an overstatement.
Absolutely. You have a lot of decorative fixture options out there. There's so many. But one of my favorite things we don't want to forget about is task lighting, like under cabinet lighting to really light up that countertop. Very purposeful, but then you have your decorative for fun as well.
And then now what's underfoot is really important in this space. Remember, you're dealing with your cooking, so you've got water, a lot of wear and tear. So there's a lot of neat flooring options for your kitchen. We're doing a lot of resilient planks. We do a little bit of a tile, but mainly resilient planks.
Yeah, I definitely say that people are looking at those trends. We're doing a lot of wood-looking pattern right now, some tiles coming back, but again, throw a little pattern into it. We have the herringbone, the basket weave, a lot of fun different areas to dress up the floor.
And then the jewelry of the kitchen. So this could be something as simple as the hardware on your cabinet. We're seeing large, elongated hardware. Some kitchens are doing no hardware. That's popular now. And then when it comes to finishes, black is probably the hottest trend when it comes to your pulls.
Yes, we have a ton of black accents right now. And don't forget, even your kitchen sink, your faucet can be another little accent in your kitchen, accentuating all of those cabinets. There's so many trends to talk about. We can't even imagine to talk about them all, but we do have all of them to see at our showroom and our open houses on the weekend. So come out, we'd love to show you. So far in today's show, we've talked all about cabinets. We've talked about the design style, the anatomy, all the terminology, some wood species, but we're going to talk a little bit more about what trends we're seeing that might not have to do with wood.
Now, a majority of our kitchens are wood, but we're going to see people move towards something different. For example, metal cabinets.
Absolutely. You're seeing a lot of different cabinets with that modern style. Start with a metal look or metal frame. And a really popular one right now is going to be called thermofoil. We even had a house that we did thermofoil cabinets because you can do a lot of different textures with it, which is really cool. So what thermofoil is going to be very similar to almost like your laminate countertops. It's going to be made out of plywood, but with a decorative finish on it. So you can get textures, you can get patterns, all sorts of different fun styles that wood really doesn't have the option for, and that's going to be a very popular trend, especially in the modern style.
And so in our kitchens, we still do a lot of laminate. As you see right here, there's a lot of pretty colors and different styles you can do with the edges, but we're seeing more granite and more quartz come into play. It's a nice durable product. Granite is a natural product, so people like the movement. That can really create some special interest in your kitchen. We talked about jewelry and your cabinet pulls. Well, your countertop could be jewelry as well.
It absolutely can. Elizabeth talked about granite, but I love quartz too. It's a very popular choice right now. A lot of people like that white, clean, almost marble look, and you can get that with the quartz. And quartz is a great product because it's man-made and it's universal for almost any space. So there's so many different options when it comes to kitchens, cabinets, even bathrooms. Don't forget, all of these things that we're talking about today do have to do with vanities, bathrooms, and it's incorporated into everywhere throughout your home. So come on and take a look. We'd love to show you all of these options.
Don't get me wrong. I love learning about how cabinets are made. I love learning about the joints. I love learning about the hinges, the wood species and everything. But I really like looking at amazing kitchens. So Izzy and I have some of the best, most luxurious kitchens in the world.
So I'll start off with just a couple that we thought that were really nice celebrity ones from Natalie Portman's kitchen. Again, this one is, you can see the kitchen opens up to the outside of the house. Beautiful. Same thing with Chrissy Teigen and John Legend here.
You need to take a look at Kelsey Grammer's kitchen, which is amazing. There's just so many great things. And here is a $139.5 million kitchen.
And again, when I think about 1.6 million, I'm thinking, wow, what an amazing house, probably, right? Well, that's what this guy spent on his kitchen. This is a $1.6 million kitchen.
And you got to take a look at Tony Stewart's kitchen and his whole rustic area that he has. It's fantastic. And they're not just limiting it now to the kitchens, it's the appliances. Here is a $40,000 corkscrew.
Gosh. Again, look at the chandeliers here hanging above the island.
Here is a $70,000 meat slicer.
Check out the different styles again. Asian minimalist, futuristic, rustic, Mediterranean, all classic styles that are being reinvented again here today, and not a dime has been spared.
And by the way, if you'd like Granite Ridge to build you one of those $47.5 million kitchens, I would love to talk to you. But seriously, if you'd like to get us some great kitchen ideas, we have them all at graniteridgebuilders.com.
All right, guys, we got to close. Hopefully you found this interesting. I know we did. I had no idea that we could do a whole half hour and find out so much about cabinets and cabinet making, especially with Matt's help.
You're right, Tony. Cabinets basically haven't changed a whole lot, but what has changed is the fit, the finish, the quality of construction.
Yeah, and the way that we joined cabinets together was super interesting to me. You know, you got the mortise and tenon, you got the dovetail fits, and like Tony said, everything is so tight. It's to a fraction of an inch. It's amazing.
I was shocked at figuring out how many different wood species can be used in doing the different cabinets and how that drastically alters the look.
And I'm surprised how far we've come from no cabinets 100 years ago to where we're at today. It's pretty impressive.
Right, and what's shocking to me is some of the design features that they're able to create to make these cabinets just make it so usable for the end consumer.
The variety of different colors, from stains to paints to the different textures that we're putting on top of the islands. There's so much variety.
I love seeing the finished product, today's new trends, and all the different cabinets that we have at Granite Ridge. It is amazing to see how beautiful kitchens come together to really enhance somebody else's life.
And I'm so proud because Granite Ridge Builders kitchens, every kitchen is unique and custom. And we have great examples. Any given Sunday, you could go out to 20 open houses and every kitchen will be different.
Well, you know, you've always heard, the kitchen is the heart of the home. Well, the cabinets have to be the heartbeat of the home. Kayla, would you go ahead and close for us?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do so well, please pick up the phone and give us a call. Visit our website, or even better yet, come into our showroom where we can show you 5 or 6 amazing kitchen setups. We'd love to talk to you all about cabinets.
And if that's the case, 2 sinks might be good for you. But we also can make you...
Yeah, it's true. Everything he says is true. Me up, that's all, folks.
and the Porky Pig comes out.